Hi guys, we have another subscriber asked question, and this one's from Ivy. Ivy said that they are very sensitive to the consumption of animals that have had to suffer. And so the question that was then asked was, does diet or eating meat affect our spirituality or spiritual growth? Something along those lines. Perfectly fine. I am going to answer. Very common question. And what I would like to say before I start is the answer to your question is no, it doesn't. However, there's a lot more to this than just saying no, because in some cases, for some people, it can be a yes. I'm going to explain this all, but blanketly, no, it doesn't. I'm going to explain why. I'm going to explain what this actually does help and doesn't help. If any of you have any more questions, you can drop them below. Welcome to Eternos Academy. I am Eternos, and it is my mission to make spirituality and mysticism accessible to as many people on the planet as possible. And to do so, I have to present it in a way that is simple, straightforward, direct, to the point. And so here we are. And my next batch of videos are all about responding to queries that you have. So if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, let's talk about this. The reason why diet and what you eat on a physical level has no correlation to the spiritual level is because they're both operating on different bodies. What you eat affects your physical body, whereas your growth and your spiritual journey all have to do with your spirit. Your spirit is a completely different entity to your physical body. However, and the reason why I say this is nuanced is because we have this little thing in the middle called the soul, okay? Now, here's what I want to say about this. And I have videos on body, soul, and spirit so you understand the difference between the three of them. But as it pertains to eating meat, it seems to me, Ivy, that with you specifically, there's something within your soul right now that doesn't sit well or right at all with you eating meat, okay? This doesn't have anything necessarily to do with the spirit. However, the spirit doesn't rely on food whatsoever, okay? And so the spirit can tell you, not to eat meat, but in reality, the spirit's gonna, in its most ideal state, have you not eating anything at all and just living off of the energy of the spirit, which is infinite. So it's not spiritual. It can, however, be obviously of the body and of the soul. Now hear me out, okay? I believe that there are a group of people rising, mystics rising, who are going to have an amazing connection with animals. And I mean how they used to back in the days. You hear about certain saints and people in the past who they would send into forests to talk to wolves and talk to animals to make sure that they didn't attack villages and all of this kind of stuff. I believe that the world is going to return to that. In order for you to have an amazing connection with animals, right, it's a bit of a juxtaposition to, want to have a good relationship with chickens and still be eating chicken. If I want to progress and advance in certain areas of my spirituality, it may require for me to refrain from eating certain things so that I have a greater level of compassion for certain things. And to be fair, if your soul is telling you that eating meat and all of that kind of stuff is bad, or you shouldn't be doing it, then don't. However, it's not going to affect your spirit if you do. So what I want you to do is, right, if you do slip up and eat meat every now and then and feel really guilty, there's no need to feel guilty about it. There's no need to feel as if you spiritually stepped back 100 stages just because you've eaten meat. It's not like that at all. My mentors all eat meat. Literally, some of the most powerful spiritual people I know on the planet, they eat meat, and I've seen them eat meat in front of me. It's nothing deep. However, sometimes they do refrain, or they have even spoken to me about it and been like, there is a time coming where a lot more people will be vegan just because of that relationship with animals. But what I would also like to say is this meat argument is a big one, and this diet argument is a big one, specifically because your question was about farmed animals. I'm only talking about this. We're going to talk about diet separately after. But in the same way, guys, that people say, oh, if you want to have a good relationship with animals, you shouldn't be eating animals. How can you say that you want to spiritually be connected to animals, but you're eating them, right? Well, the same thing applies to plants. Plants are living entities, they're alive. And so even if you stop eating meat now and start eating just plants and vegetables, the same argument stands, which is, well, how can you expect to have a good relationship with nature and command nature if, you're still here eating, plants and whatnot? In which that case would be you just have to survive off of nothing. But in reality, We're humans and humans have to eat. Yeshua himself was multiplying bread and fish for people to yam. So if that doesn't say anything, also as well, the meat these days is very different depending on where you get it from. And you mentioned clearly the suffering of animals. And I am aware that not all animals who get killed have the same level of suffering that they go through. So if that's more a moral thing, once again, that's within your soul, okay? And so you need to sit down with yourself and ask, if me doing this thing is gonna make me unhappy, then should I really carry on doing it, okay? That's where the whole meat conversation comes into it, okay? For me personally, the meat that I eat the most is chicken. I have fish every now and then. I don't really eat pork, and I think I'm gonna cut out pork, not for spiritual purposes, but just because of how long it stays in the system. I believe that maintaining a good physical body is important, okay? Now let's get on to diet, which still ties into this meat stuff, but diet now is important. I'm gonna tell you this, okay? There are certain foods and certain things they put in our meat, which specifically are designed to break or sever the connection between our body and our soul. And by that, I mean that you guys should be aware, or some of you may know, if you join the academy, you can learn this in detail. And I think I may have some videos on it. I do actually, in my body, soul, spirit video, that your soul is made up of energy gates. These look like sixes, but they're supposed to be circles, my bad. Don't want any allegations coming in, you know, them demonic allegations as people, I mean, they're probably gonna come in anyway. People think I'm a wizard, but hey, what can you do? There's a connection between the soul and the body. By that, what I mean is there are certain organs in the physical body that correlate with the energy points or chakras in the soul. I can give you some examples. Your sexual reproductive organs, they overlap with, you guys should be able to tell me. I'll give you a clue. It's either the root or sacral chakra. If you check out my video, you can find out. The first eye of the soul, I'll just tell you, overlaps with the pineal gland, the crown with the pituitary gland, etc., etc. The heart with, of course, the heart. So you have organs that are linked to energy points in the soul, which is why also when you experience trauma, which is an emotional thing, that trauma can get trapped in the physical body. And on Instagram, when you see the videos where they're waving their hands over certain areas and the people start going, and you know, all that trauma is being released, what's happening is, right, because the link between the body and the soul is so much, when they start to heal the soul, wherever that energy is trapped in the body then comes out. Do you get it? So there's a link between the body and the soul, which is very strong. Now, what pharma and these companies are trying to do is they put things into our food and our diet to disconnect this. For example, in the very water that most of us shower with, there's this thing called fluoride. And what fluoride does, it's also in toothpaste, is it calcifies the pineal gland, which dullens and weakens human intuition, for example. Also, a lot of these processed sugars, drinks, etc., contain chemicals and things that essentially make this perform a lot worse and make this a lot more unstable, okay? So what I would say is having a healthy, balanced diet is very beneficial for someone who wants to obtain mastery over the body, soul, and spirit. In my What is Spirituality videos, I spoke about the difference briefly and about spirituality and about how you have a lot of people out there who are healing and doing great spiritual feats, but they're fat and they have bad character. Okay, sorry to put it plainly, but that's an example of how the spirit can be strong, but the body can be out of line and the soul can be out of line. If you want to master all three, you have to have all three in a healthy state. And so eating healthily is very, very important, right? When I start teaching you guys some of my protocols for weight loss and some of the experiments that I run on myself and that I have done to lose weight, aside from just fasting, you lot will see that this being in good nick benefits this being in good nick, which also benefits this being in good nick. And I'm not saying you have to be in perfect condition, but just at a level of decent health, okay? So watch what you eat. Don't be eating too much nonsense because it will affect you, okay? But to once again even caveat that, if we're talking straight spirituality, then you can have the most unhealthy diet in the world and still be developing spiritually. And the energy in your spirit is strong enough to sustain your physical body even if it's unhealthy. You can be maintaining your physical health even though you're eating like terribly, but it will just use a lot of your spirit's energy. And so if you want to regain some more energy for your spirit to use elsewhere, then eat just a little bit healthier. You know, you'll find things a little bit more easy, even for the soul as well. You go on certain diets, right? And it becomes way more easier to use your soul because of this connection, such as the rainbow diet, which I need to make a video about in the academy. Thank you. I need to do that. You can search it up though, such as the rainbow diet, where you eat fruits in a specific order to realign this to this and all this kind of good stuff, okay? But once again, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Ivy, I hope I answered your question, okay? If you feel bad about the consumption of animals because they've suffered, then it's probably best you stop consuming them. If at a later date you then feel better about it and you feel more comfortable doing it, then by all means start consuming these meats and these things again. But once again, I would always say you need to follow what your soul and spirit are directing you to do. Spirit could tell me today I need to start eating a lot of meat. Spirit could tell my brother, right, the same opposite. Do you get it? Could tell him stop eating meats and all of that. It's about your own personal path, and that's the beautiful thing. But I'm just here to let you know that regardless of whether you eat meat or don't eat meat, it will not affect your spiritual progression. Some people are going to watch this and be annoyed because I know online in the spiritual community there's this big thing of, you know, for me to evolve spiritually, I have to go on the alkaline diet and I only eat what nature provides and this and that. It's great for your physical body. It may even be good for the soul, but on a spiritual level, like it doesn't really matter. Saying that physical things impact the spirit is a way of basically just signaling that you don't really understand how things work, because it works in the direct opposite. The spiritual world influences the physical and not the other way around. When you see things happen on a large scale in the physical, it's because something has happened in the spiritual that's allowed it to happen. There is nothing that goes on in this physical world, and I mean nothing significant. I don't care if it's an earthquake. I don't care whatever it is without it happening in the astral or spiritual first. And I'm telling you because I've seen this. There are beings and things that have jurisdiction over certain areas that allow for certain natural disasters to happen, right? Once you understand the real natural order, it happens this way, not this way. And so do not worry. It's best to start working on these at the pace and rate in which you can. So start working on your spirit, start working on your soul, start working on your body. You don't have to go ham in on everything consistently all at once. But Ivy, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for dropping and answering and engaging in the community. And I would love to answer any more questions, maybe even hop on a call with some of you guys as well. Join the Discord and we can arrange one. But yeah, guys, peace, love, blessings. And I am now going to answer any more questions that I see in this community. So peace.